We're back. That's right, folks. The wrestling podcast known as the Pop Up Powerbomb podcast is back. Had a break of a couple of weeks due to I had to move house, so obviously I had to wait for the internet to be connected. But we laid the smackdown on that and got that connected for the 1, 2, 3. So please join us for the most electrifying duo in wrestling podcast history. Of course, one half of my tag team partner, the Cerebral Pineapple Paul, is on his way, always running late. Fashionably late as always, but I will, of course, give him the hot tag once he arrives. But glad to be back in the saddle of things. And we've got a lot to discuss, of course, because we've missed a few weeks, as I mentioned. But everybody's welcome. If you're a wrestling fan, get on in here. Run the ropes. Join us for a powerbomb or a pile driver or two. And kick back and enjoy the show. But, of course, let's give a shout-out to the chat. Already seeing the chat, of course. I love the girl, the rockin' one herself, rocking out in the chat. Trinity Warrior. I already see the man, the myth, the legend with the mythical beard, the one and only Dreadpool. What's good, brother? And of course, the man himself from across the dear old Pommy land. He likes a beer or two. Good old Timmy. Welcome in, Timmy. Welcome in. And here he is, the cerebral one himself. Laying the smack down and all your candy asses.
But let me fix something real quick here. Hang on, I'll be right.
He'll be right back, folks. He's got to lace up the boots, can't trip over.
There we go. Had to make sure you saw my pretty little face. There you go.
How you been, brother? It's good to be back, man.
I've been doing okay, I guess. 3 very long weeks.
Yes, man.
Trying to just keep it going day to day.
Indeed.
I'll tell you what, and I've said on other shows, I have not been this hyped for WrestleMania in probably the better part of 20 years. Seriously.
I know it's it's big WrestleMania season, and this is the 40th anniversary of it, the 40th iteration of it.
Yep.
Makes you feel old, doesn't it, when you think of that?
Yeah. Because I watched the first one on TV. Whatever.
Yeah, the good old, even the first, I'd say the first 4, man. I mean, that's a long time ago, and they had the likes of Muhammad Ali and who else did they have? Cyndi Lauper.
Well, they had anybody who was everybody for a while there. I mean,
Yeah.
Plus, remember that was the time, that. They were also like Hulk Hogan was in one of the Rocky movies, and
Yeah, it was known as the rock and wrestling phase. If you remember, that's what they known it as. Mr. T showed up. Who's the guy who showed up before the dancers? I think he had his own Vegas show too. His big name, but they had some names. And celebrities have always.
And to go back and not to get political, but quite a few of them were actually held on Trump properties.
Yeah.
And so Trump would show up. So.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, we all remember his match one year with McMahon.
Yeah.
But no, there's been some awesome memories. But no, I'm right there with you. The hype train for this year, they're going to pull out all the stops.
It looks like the card, even though I haven't seen an order yet, but we know some of what day 1 and some of what day 2. The card is solid. From top to bottom.
Yeah, and generally,
so far.
Look, most WrestleManias I'd say are good. We've had a couple that I can think of off the top of my head that weren't so good.
Last year night 1 actually topped night 2, if I remember right.
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah.
Night 2 kind of ended on a dud. Yeah,
it's not. It's not often that you get a dud WrestleMania. I think as a whole, the last dud WrestleMania was WrestleMania 20. That was in Madison Square Garden, where you had Brock and Goldberg, and they basically walked around the ring for frickin' 10 minutes. But it was a dud. It was a dud pay-per-view.
And
they usually, except for WrestleMania 20, especially when it hits the each 10-year milestone. Like
Yeah.
WrestleMania 10 was quite big, WrestleMania
Right.
30 was quite big, WrestleMania
Yeah.
40 is just going to be absolutely huge, and I can imagine what
Yep.
WrestleMania 50 is going to be like.
And since we're talking about this, I want to mention, because I don't think I mentioned it here, but I think part of when Rock came back and said he's going to make this the most memorable, biggest WrestleMania ever, I don't know that they had planned that it would go this route. I thought he thought actually that him and Roman going at it would be the match everybody wanted. But I think in doing what they've done here and twisting it, making him go heel again,
Yeah.
and driving this Cody Rock thing to the point that they have, that's what's making it big.
Yeah, and he's
It's
made
not,
the statement, and honestly, I agree with his statement. To be quite honest, he's made wrestling cool again. I think
Yeah.
heel Rock coming in has made wrestling cool again. I'm not saying wrestling was flat by any means, but
no.
that attitude, because it's literally attitude Rock. And
Right.
and
It does remind me, what's going on now does remind me a lot of the Attitude Era.
yes,
Even the tone that Cody's taking,
well,
which
we're
and
gonna,
I've talked about that before.
yeah,
That that Cody was a little too soft, but all of a sudden he started to crank it up, even before The Rock came back, and
exactly.
started going into that tweener mode where he wouldn't he was going to be the first guy to take the first shot.
I mean,
Which
I did
got
have a
no,
giggle.
yeah,
I did have a giggle where he slapped Rock, but then and Rock took the piss out of him because he goes, "How did you react after that slap? You come out and you cry to your mama."
yeah.
And then he made the
No,
whole song about it. But
I do with agree with some articles I saw that said some of them backstage, including some of the WWE, are not happy with some of the more cruder statements he's been making online and in the shows,
no,
because
no.
they try to keep it rather PG, you know.
Yeah, and he's taken it to a at
Yeah.
least a mature level.
Yeah.
But I love it. Look, I
Yeah.
think it's great. Like the Attitude Era, as we're well
Yeah.
aware, as probably arguably the best era in wrestling. It was so
Yeah.
so controversial,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
much fun. Like and I mean, like, there were statements that he made in the Attitude Era that he just couldn't get away with making now
Yeah.
in today's wrestling.
But I like the fact that, like, he came out and sang his little song that he was gonna, produce Cody's bloodied belt to his mother.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they allowed Cody to actually come in and call that all out, but at the same time, I know your mother, and she is a wonderful person.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
thought
yeah.
that's just a
Yeah.
great way to show the total,
And I still look. I love it because, I mean, he literally, all he's doing is using some coarse language. I mean, he told Cody to
Right.
shut the F up. He's called him a
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
I do agree with the thing that the clown emoji thing is getting a little old, because that seems to be the only thing he can say about Seth.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
you
know.
walking clown emoji. Get it over, dude.
Yeah.
Find some new material.
What did I love what Seth called him? What did Seth call him? Diarrhea mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, look, it's building up nicely. We're going to
Yep.
get into that a little bit later in the show, but let's get into the first situation, which has been a spicy situation for the last 12 months, concerning Jack Perry. Anybody that's
Yeah.
well aware knows that he got really pushed and put on the sidelines by Tony Khan and AEW, with the whole him and CM Punk backstage brawl thing from a year ago. And he's come out denying apologizing for the Punk fight, which I said the whole time. I said Punk came out and owned his shit, right, for that, and,
Right.
Apologized more to the fans. I don't think he really cared about apologizing, but he apologized to the fans and everything else and other people
Yep.
he may let down. But Jack Perry, I said, no, I guarantee you he hasn't apologized.
Yeah.
And he says himself that AEW plans were scrapped. So I think it was last Friday morning, the latest edition of Meltzer's Wrestling Observer provided an update on displaced AEW star Jack Perry, saying he had apologized to AEW CEO Tony Khan following the incident at All In last year that led to Punk's departure from the company. Meltzer also said that Perry's recent work in New Japan, which has a working relationship with AEW, is part of a storyline leading to Perry's AEW return. However, It's now clear that Meltzer's source for this information was not Perry himself, as Perry contacted the Observer and provided a completely different story. So according to the latest report from Brian Alvarez, Perry denies that he ever apologised to Khan for the incident All In, saying he refused to initiate first contact and didn't hear from the AEW president for over 3 months following the incident. He finally met with Khan in November 2023 before AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view, where they discussed a December return. However, according to Perry, these plans were completely scrapped when Punk returned to WWE at Survivor Series. Afterward, Khan and Rocky Romero worked with Perry to set up his New Japan debut in January, which saw him rip up his AEW contract and begin referring to himself by the term scapegoat. Perry claims none of this was approved by AEW at all, and this is not this is not storyline. He said he's still under AEW contract, but only because AEW and Tony Khan denied his request for a full release. He says he hasn't spoken to Khan in months, and there are currently no plans whatsoever to bring him back. And again, this stems from when Perry was suspended by AEW following the incident All In, where a line spoken by Perry during the pre-show match, Real Glass, Crimea River, enraged Punk to the point that the two got into a physical altercation backstage, and the incident, as we're well aware, ultimately resulted in Punk being fired by AEW and a few months after coming back to the WWE. This is just a continuous thing. I think I don't think we will see him back in AEW. I think he's gone now, actually, to be quite fair, and made an even bigger name for himself over in New Japan. And I think New Japan's a really, really good spot for him. I think right now there's a lot going on, just like there's a lot going on in WWE. I think there's a lot going on in AEW, especially with the 3 new signings of Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, and Mercedes Moné, formerly Sasha Banks. There's just I can't see any room on the card for him. You've got a returning MJF coming back in about another month or two. And Darby Allin, I know he's going away right now to climb Mount Everest, but he'll be back too. So I think there's a lot going on. And since he's been gone, the landscape's changed a lot. And they've got a few other guys that have kind of slid into his spot, like that young Nick Wayne that's under Christian's wing, you know. But look, I said this whole time, not apologising. I think he not only owed Punk an apology for being unprofessional, and I think he obviously owed Tony Khan an apology, even though I have my own thoughts about Tony Khan, the way he runs things. But still, that's your boss, and how you acted was pretty disgraceful, I guess, for a talent, especially considering AEW's really built themselves and prided themselves on a family environment. I like how they're all, you know, very tight, very family orientated backstage. I think he's still got a lot of growing up to do, but I think Japan's a perfect place for him to grow up, because so many young guys. Will Ospreay has said it. Kenny Omega has said it. Japan humbled their ass. They went over there cocky, young, brash, and by the end of their tenure, they'd learnt respect. They matured. You know, Japanese.
Not only that, I think that style is a good fit for
Perry.
Jumpin' Jack Flash over there. Yeah, you
know? yeah, exactly.
It really is. It really is.
Hey, what's good, Yobi? Especially because, you know, he's gone with this more serious character. He's dropped the Jungle Boy act, you know.
Yeah.
And he can work a stiffer style over there, which I think he's going to learn a lot. He's also now part of, I forget what group, I think it's Chaos he might be a part of, is the group that's over there. You know, I think it will humble him over there, you know, because over there, as we're well aware, it's a different style of wrestling, not just with the way they present it. Wrestling's the most important thing with their wrestling over there. It's not about the the
Right.
spectacle. It's not about the entrances. It's not really about the flash and everything like that. Um, and it's a very honourable thing. Like there's a lot of respect there. It's sort of treated similar to the old Ring of Honor. They there's a lot of cases where they bow and so it's taken a little bit more serious, like as if it's a serious sport over there. That's how they kind of. I mean, the crowd's not even allowed to. That's one thing I've never got. They don't let the crowd cheer and stuff. Like the crowd's always silent. They just
Wow.
got to
To me, that
yeah.
would take some. To me, that would take some of the energy away, but that's just me, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I mean, it's a completely different feel. It really
Right.
is. It's a different animal over there. Um, I think they kind of let them for the real big show, like their Wrestlemania, their Wrestle Kingdom. They let them be a bit more
Well,
boisterous,
and
but
I
for the
think
most part,
when they
yeah.
do stuff, when they like probably when they were in Canada, we could actually ask what's his name about this. If when they did the Canada shows with AEW, if they expect that, so I don't know that they're going to control that.
Exactly. They're coming
Yeah.
out to when they've come to like Japan or other countries, they kind of expect, but they have a different expectation from their crowd over there. And it is, man. It's deadly. I mean, sometimes you can hear a pin drop. It's deadly quiet.
See, and I that'd be hard for me to follow. It really would.
It would. It'd be so. It's so confusing because you sit there and watch it if you're new to it, and you're like, okay. Usually the crowd helps you in knowing
Yeah.
who's bad, who's good. What's going on.
Well,
Um,
plus the
yeah.
wrestlers will tell you when they were wrestling during the pandemic, it was hard for them to do the energy thing because
No.
they didn't have the crowd. They
Yeah. No. Only at Wrestle Kingdom, Yobi.
yeah.
They like I watch all New Japan, right? And when they're just doing say a regular pay per view, the crowd is so fucking silent. When they do their
Yeah.
American pay per views, how because they got New Japan, USA, that's different because obviously different crowd, American crowd, right? But yeah, Japan, like unless it's Wrestle Kingdom, like when they're like wrestling in the smaller venues like the halls and I think one's called Hoodokan Hall or something like along those lines. Nothing, bro. Nothing at all. It's like, good God, like, yeah, it's just a different beast over there. But look, at the end of the day, Jack
Yep.
Perry, I think this is a perfect place for him to grow because he needs
Yep.
to learn. And I think the group
Yeah.
that he's been put with, you've got some older guys there that they'll slap the piss out of him. They'll slap the taste out of his mouth if he acts the wrong way or
Yeah.
says the wrong thing. Right? They won't muck
Yep.
around over there. And I think he can develop more as a wrestler and in ring. Like they still do promos over there, and so he can learn how to do good promo work. That was probably a weak spot for him. Um, so maybe one day he will come back to the US, but he could be like Will Ospreay, for example, right? So Will Ospreay went
Right.
over as I think he was 21 or 22 at the time when he went over there from Britain, and he's come back. Well, not come back. He's now come over to the United States, age 30. He's got a house, he's got a mortgage, he's got a wife, he's got a child. So he's at a good spot now, but he learnt a lot over there. He
Right.
honed his craft, and not only is he one of the best talkers in the business, he's probably at this point in time the best wrestler on the planet. Because I mean, there's been reports that there's some backstage at WWE that were a bit upset that they didn't lock him down and get him to sign on the dotted line. He signed with AEW, but they've moved on, obviously.
Yeah.
It's only one guy, but age 30, I mean, he's still young. He's still got some years. He's got 20 years
Yep.
ahead of him at least, barring serious injury. But yeah, no, Jack Perry, I think at some point when he understands what he did wrong and how that may have affected some people, including his boss at the time, um,
Right.
as well as just, you know,
Yeah. When you're done, I want to speak to that a little bit because I've seen some other stuff this week too.
yeah, as well as like respecting your locker room, like,
Yeah.
you know, and he didn't. He's disrespected, and by not apologizing to anyone, he's disrespected that. I mean, at the very least, if you don't want to apologize to Khan, at least apologize to Punk, and at least apologize to the rest of the locker room and say, hey, I effed up, you know, I'm waving my
Right.
hand up, I messed up, you know, and I apologize for bringing turmoil, because it did bring turmoil backstage. It did. So no, you go ahead and say your piece, brother, on it before we move to the next topic.
I was gonna say I want one. Yeah, I saw an article today that Tony Khan was mad at Jack because he blames Jack for them losing CM Punk,
Mm.
and in the end, I don't think it's anybody's fault but Tony's
No, he's the
because
one who
Tony
fires and
lost
hires.
control. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the one who fired him. He's the one who lost control of the situation.
Yep.
So he's looking for a fall guy in Jack, and they're saying that's why we haven't seen Jack in a years because and Jay he won't let him out of his contract because he's punishing Jack for what he views as being Jack's fault that they lost CM Punk.
Yeah.
I will also say that I don't know that CM Punk would be as big at AEW now as he is at WWE now because
No.
of the way they handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because WWE knew better how to handle it. His coming back and doing what they've done, they've made him a big thing again. I don't think that would have happened in A&E.
No.
I agree with you that Jack should man up and hopefully he will grow up, but I think Tony blaming him for all of this is not it's not on Jack.
No, it's
In
not.
the end, it's not on Jack.
No. Not for Punk, like AEW losing Punk, because it's not
No.
like, oh, the incident happened and Punk said, oh, f you, I'm going. Like,
Yeah.
Tony Khan chewed on it for a little bit and made a decision.
He didn't even chew on it for that long. If
No.
you remember right. He
No.
did. It was like,
It was like a week or two, and then he's decided to fire
Yeah.
it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your fault he's over in WWE right now. You had him
Right.
under contract.
and I'm not saying he should have fired Jack either, but
No.
he could have penalized both of them and been
Yeah.
done with it. And he needs to get I don't know how it is now, but I'm still hearing rumblings that the locker room back there is still not that great. The morale back there is still not that great.
No.
But
It might get a bit better now with these
Yeah.
new signings and stuff like that.
right.
But yeah, at the end of the day, the man, I've said for the longest time, Tony Khan, he really needs to step up in certain aspects, and otherwise, at some point, this company will go belly up. I mean, you know, a lot of people are like, oh no, it'll never happen because him and his dad have got a lot of money. But if his dad decides to pull funding, and then Tony runs out of money, well, it can happen. I mean, nobody in their wildest dreams at one point in time ever thought WCW would be out of business, not with billionaire Ted behind it. And what happened? You know? So you never say never, but
Yep, because even even Ted, especially Ted, he wants to see a return on his investment.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. You know, so Tony needs to change something. At the moment, it's starting to pick up some momentum and pick up. It's starting to get good, like how it initially was, and I just hope they keep it there, and the morale backstage keeps improving, and Tony delegates when it comes to story, you know, writing and telling, because they should continue on the upward trajectory that they are currently on. If they lose that momentum again, I personally would put a pin in it, because that'd be like the umpteenth time that they've built momentum and then built momentum and then flopped. You know, they can't keep doing that. They can't. They just if the fans tune out, you're done. You know, if the ratings start really dipping, you're done. You know, if you get booted from a TV network and no other network wants you, you're done. You know, you're totally done. You can't rely on just streaming either. You know, that's why WWE is kind of fucking everywhere at the moment. They know how to do their deals and stuff like that. Whereas there's probably a lot of networks, even probably a lot of streaming services that look at AEW and go, it's not such a sure thing. You know, I don't know if we want to go out on a limb. You know, yeah, they've got to make themselves appealing, and you know.
Yep. Now, speaking of going on a limb, I will say it's funny when you go back and watch some of the old pay-per-views, especially, and some of these wrestlers that they bring up, and you go, I never heard from him after that at all.
Yeah, right.
They,
Yeah, I know.
so next to the main event, next week they're gone. I
They're
mean, it's
gone.
like they flopped. They
Yeah,
no name, no nothing, whatever. Yeah.
yeah. See you later. Who was that? Although we'll all
Well, it's like
we all,
it's like they're doing their tag team, tournament
you
to
know what's
figure
funny
out which
though?
6 teams are going to be at the pay-per-view, right?
Yeah,
And I every week now I can tell you who's going to win those tournaments,
yeah,
those
yeah,
matches, because there's one team and there's one team you've never fucking heard of.
yeah,
I can
yeah. Boy, there is someone that was very short term, but we'll always still remember him because of just the gimmick, the gobbledygooker, bro.
Yeah.
Popping out of the egg.
But yeah, I noticed that when I was watching wrestling this last week. It's like the tournament's cool, but you got like the one good team that everybody knows about, and
Yeah.
these two guys that you've never seen before.
Yeah, it's like,
Gee, who's gonna win?
who's gonna win? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're really scraping the bottom of the locker room to fill out these tournaments right now.
Oh, I know, bro. But yeah, moving on to the next topic now. He's been in the news for the last week, of course. Bill Goldberg, or as I like to call him, Gold Turd. Um, so first off, he details his backstage issues with Triple H during his WWE run, because he'd done 2 podcasts this week where he spoke on a bunch of things. So he did the unthinkable, obviously, when he returned to WWE in 2016 to defeat Brock Lesnar in less than 2 minutes. What seemed to be one final match turned into a prolonged run with the company, capturing 2 Universal title reigns and facing the likes of Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns and The Undertaker in marquee matches. But Goldberg hasn't returned to the promotion since 2022, despite claiming to have been owed a final bout with the company. The WWE Hall of Famer was asked what he thought had gone wrong with his WWE run, laying blame on current CCO Paul Triple H Levesque.
Oh, please.
No, I know. He's always, even in his initial run back in the day in 2002 to 2003, he had issues with Triple H. He's always had issue with him. I think it's a jealousy thing per se, because Triple H is just an all-round better bloody wrestler. The fact that I didn't get along with Paul Levesque, which is Vince's son-in-law, I think had everything to do with it. He answered before going into particulars of the issue. So it was noted in the interview that there had been a baseline of animosity between Goldberg and Triple H when they feuded over the World Heavyweight Championship throughout 2003, something which Goldberg claims to be real and perpetuated by his time with WCW working alongside Nash and Hall, close friends of Levesque, clearly. He goes, I know some people that were friends that worked with me in WCW were talking to him when he was working at WWE. He made a comment while I was at home, and I remember it like it was yesterday. From that text, he said, I was taking it or faking it or something, and I wasn't there for the demise of WCW. How could I? So from then on, I wanted to rip his face off. So we had a confrontation prior to me signing at the WWE. Then, ironically, we were represented by the same agent, and so it made the situation quite uncomfortable once I did sign with WWE. So yeah, that was one part of the interview. The second part of the interview where I thought, oh my God, just shut up, you're crying. Like, I've never been able to stand this man.
I also want to point out that Levesque and Stephanie were not married when he first joined the WWE. Okay, that didn't happen for a few years.
Hey, back, what's good, brother? Back, welcome in, brother. Now this next comment I thought was funny, and I was like, God, this guy, he's done it a lot in his career. He just whinges and he bitches and he moans. And look, people used to take the piss out of John Cena with John Cena's 5 moves to do, but John Cena had more talent in his right pinky than Goldberg ever had. Like, Goldberg was messy, he was sloppy in the ring. He only got over because WWE pushed him as this monster that could run over people, and his matches were so bloody short. Like, he has no mic skills. The guy is just not talented. And the thing is he's been caught out.
He looks like a monster.
He does.
Looks like a monster.
But the thing is he's been caught out several times where he's admitted he's never truly given a damn about the wrestling industry. He was there for a paycheck. And that's another thing that I can't stand about him. The second thing I can't stand about him is he played a big role in Bret Hart's career ending before it should have, with that kick.
Yeah.
And I agree with Brett. The man in the week just after the never rang to apologise, never came to the hospital, didn't do nothing. Man, you just nearly kicked a legend's head off because you were so sloppy in the ring, and you can't even apologise to the man? Like, come on. So he went on in his interview, and I thought this is funny, man, because he's just crying about it. He had a big cry on WWE letting Asuka, mind you, he can't even pronounce the woman's name. He called her Asuka, right? Letting Asuka beat his winning streak. He's got a problem with it. So he criticised WWE.
Because she's a woman.
Yeah, but the thing is, first off, I picked him apart because I'm like, if you're going to say a wrestler's name, say it properly. Her name is not Asuka, it's Asuka, right? And
I admit, when I first saw it, I thought it was Asuka too.
No, so, but he's sitting there calling her Asuka. Even the interviewer pulled him up on it. And he goes, he's got a problem with it and criticised them for allowing her to break his undefeated streak. So in the same podcast, he was asked if WWE directed any hostility towards him before he made the switch WWE from WCW. He believes that WWE tried to tarnish his image when he eventually got there by having Asuka beat his historic 173-0 win streak. He goes, well, a girl beat my winning streak, said the Hall of Famer. Asuka is her name, some Japanese girl, and they touted her as being the one to have the longest winning streak, and it just so happened that culminated when I got there for the second time. The WCW legend also cited another aspect of his repertoire, his spear, as being appropriated by WWE, with him claiming that every wrestler performs his iconic move. I do believe there was wrestlers that were using a spear before he came along.
Yeah.
One such wrestler I remember, Steve Mongo McMichael used it. Yeah. Another guy who came across from the NFL into wrestling.
That's no different than, like, I associate the figure four leg lock with Bret Hart, but wrestlers have used it before him and wrestlers will use it after him. Even though I associate it with Bret Hart, you know.
Joby just wanted to correct you on something. He goes, Goldberg came in April 2003 the first time, and Hunter and Steph married in that same year in October. So when he initially got there, you were correct. They weren't married, but they were married a few months, obviously, later.
Right.
Thanks, Joby, for that, brother. But anyway, he went on to say, and then it just so happened that every single wrestler uses the spear in their moves, right? Ironic that happened when I got there. So that's how they do it.
Jesus Christ.
Now, here's the funny thing, right? Now, he's saying this after his second run. Edge, when Goldberg wasn't even there, Edge was using the spear. So I don't know how he thinks he can get away with making a statement like this. And mind you, let me just say, Edge does the spear a lot more beautifully than Goldberg ever did. Right. I love Edge's spear. I really do. I've seen several people do a better spear than Gold. Bobby Lashley can pull off a heck of a spear too. But it's a basic freaking wrestling move that's being used for quite some time. It was being used before Bill Goldberg. It's going to be used now after Bill Goldberg. And he needs to get over himself because it's people that just do it better than you, bro. It just is.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, there are very few new moves. I've seen some new, you know, the only time I see something new is usually off the high flyers because they find a new fucking way to fly off the rope. Yeah. And
I've seen women like Becky's done the spear and hers has looked more devastating. Rhea's done the spear, hers has looked more devastating. Edge's spear to me, and he's a lot smaller build than Bill Goldberg, but his spear looked more devastating than Goldberg's a lot of the time. There was a few times that Goldberg, like, he had a spear of people jumping off the top rope, and that looked cool. I'm not saying it didn't, but his spear a lot of the time was just sloppy, or it looked like I remember when he speared The Rock, when The Rock came back from Hollywood and he was all in the ring in leather and said, "No one can beat me," and Goldberg debuted, right? That spear was absolutely pathetic. Rock sold it like the champion that Rock is, right? Rock sold it. Oh, my rib, you know. Rock's one of the best sellers in the business, of course.
Yep.
But when you watch that spear, even when you go to YouTube and watch that particular, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, it's like a baby hit him. Like, it was the softest spear I've ever seen in my life. But thankfully, as I said, Rock sold it. There's a lot of times in Goldberg's career he was carried and made to look good by other guys. DDP made him
I,
look
I
good.
think I think the only reason they had him do the spears because he's a big boy, and that was like the only
And he
move he
came,
could really do.
yeah,
That
and he
was
came across from the
yeah,
his not so
from
great
football.
NF. Yeah, he didn't even make it on I think the starting squad of
Well,
the Atlanta
CFL,
Falcons.
CFL, CFL. Don't
No,
let me talk about
he
the
was on the Atlanta
NFL
Falcons roster, but he didn't
for like a
make
week.
the,
For like a
yeah,
week,
but he
dude. It
didn't
was-
make the roster, right? Um, and so, you know, and like his jackhammer, it's literally a freaking suplex. In
Yeah.
reality, a suplex turned into a bit of a sort of power slam move, right? Not really We've seen plenty of other devastating moves. Like even the pedigree looks a lot, you know, more painful than that, right? A choke slam, a tombstone, like Kevin Nash's freaking power bomb. Like, good God,
Right.
you know, the guy just. I think he loves himself a bit too much, to be quite honest.
He thinks he's better than he is, or more important than he
Yeah,
is. You know, like
and he revealed also recently that he wanted his streak to end earlier than when it eventually did, claiming that he had pitched to lose to. He wanted to lose, right, to Bobby Eaton. Of all wrestlers, old Bobby Eaton from back, he was a bigger name in the 80s and early 90s. But the powers that be at WCW rejected his request. I mean, they built that streak up. That was all on Bischoff, right? No, sorry, dude. No wonder Bischoff said no to you. He's not going to have that streak broken by Bobby freaking Eaton.
right,
It was ended up broken by Kevin Nash. You're gonna be if it was going to be broken, it was going to be always broken by a name. But you know, even Nash, you know, he made him look good. Sting made him look good. You know, so many guys like realistically in their matches, and they had several. Brock Lesnar made him look good. You know, the other thing is because his matches were always short, and then when he came back around this second time, he was gassed within a minute, sweating like
yep,
as if he'd been out there for 20 minutes. Like the guy, you know, he may be in the gym and he may, you know, have all this muscle but he clearly doesn't have endurance. You know, which is a big thing to have in wrestling. You know, I don't think fans turn up to see a 5-minute match. They'd rather see at least a 20-minute match, you know, if not longer. But complaining that a woman who, again, is more talented than you, has got more talent in her pinky than you do in your whole body and career, that's ridiculous. And it was always going to eventually be broken by someone, whether it was Asuka, whether it was somebody. It could have been Bray Wyatt as the Fiend when they, you know, he was the Fiend
right.
and they had him going on the street. It doesn't matter. It would have been broken. All these old school records are always meant to be broken. I mean, look at what no one ever thought that, you know, all these world champion records were going to be broken. They've allowed Roman to be smashing them. The only one he's probably not going to break is Hogan and Bruno's, but he's
Right.
beat everybody else, right? So Gunther beat every other IC champion in history. He's now the longest running. So the
Yep.
records are meant to be broken. He needs to get over himself. Like,
Yeah.
this guy just constantly cries and whinges, and
Yeah,
I don't
well,
get it.
it's because wrestling was before him, wrestling was during him, and wrestling will be after he's long gone, and that's what he doesn't seem to get.
No,
Is he's gonna be a name in the books that people are gonna in 20, 30, 40 years they're still gonna talk about his amazing run, but that's gonna be about it.
no, and
And the fact that he broke Bret Hart, you know.
yeah, my issue with him is you're crying about an industry that you've admitted you don't give a damn about. You
Right.
went there, you made your money, and it was all about the money for him. Hence why that first run with WWE was only 12 months. I didn't want a bar of the dude. Like, you've got no respect for the industry. You don't care enough about it. And in reality, if it wasn't for wrestling, nobody would know who the heck you are.
Yep.
You're currently a has-been, but you could have been and never was. Right? And so, like, I don't get him whinging so much, as I said, over this. It shouldn't matter to him. You've said time and time again that, oh, you're only in the business for money. You're pushed into it too. He's admitted in interviews in the past just to get him into wrestling. But
Well, because didn't he have to? He left. If I remember right, I could be wrong, But I remember right, he had to stop playing football because he injured himself.
Something, yeah, something. I can't remember exactly why, but
Yeah.
the funny thing is, in the same interview, he admitted to, and I didn't actually. This is something new I didn't know about. He had an offer all the way back. This is before he came into WCW. He had an offer on the table from the then WWF, and he turned it down. Well, he actually used Vince in the WWF to get more money out of Bischoff and WCW. And Bischoff came calling and said, "Oh no, we've got to get this guy. You know, guy looks like a pro wrestler, looks like $1 million." And just in that statement alone, I'm like, exactly what I've been saying. You don't give a damn. Like, and Bret Hart's called him out on it several times. He doesn't care about the industry. So why are you going to sit there and whinge if someone breaks your? You shouldn't care.
Right.
Be happy for her. You know, and it's just funny.
I honestly
so
think
jealous.
it's because I honestly think that it's because she's a woman and she's a foreigner, and she's a foreigner at that.
Yeah, he's so jealous over her beating his streak. It's unbelievable. I'm like, well, you know, would it really matter who it was going to be? You'd probably be pissed off. You know, it's just.
I would have been a real dick if I was running and I said, "We're gonna have Triple H break his record. Stick that in his ass."
Yeah,
you know, but,
that would have been funny. And see, even going with that, his issue with Triple H, that was all on him because of stupid comments that he made. You know, I'm like, I know this industry like the back of my hand. You don't have to be best friends with someone in this, but at least be respectful backstage in a working environment. He couldn't even do that. He couldn't even do that. There almost was a backstage brawl broke out between the two.
Yep.
Like those two,
and like Brett has said, he didn't care about the other wrestler in the ring. That's why he was dangerous.
No, and several wrestlers, even Jericho, has come out and said, Bill Goldberg's not only an arrogant fuck, but he is so sloppy in that ring. He doesn't take any care for the wrestler that he is in the ring with.
Right.
And they're all taught that. And the ones in the industry, and there's a heck of a lot of them that are in the industry because they love the industry. It's a passion of theirs.
Right.
They're in there. That's the whole point. You're in there to look after each other during the match because you need that match to go, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, right? You're not in there to hurt each other. You're in there to tell a story, but you've got to look after each other. And if you can't do that, there's going to be nobody that wants to work with you. And hence why the only person when he came back that really wanted to work with him was Brock, only because they're friends. And
Brock's big enough to lay him on his ass too.
Yeah, Brock's a tough son of a bitch, but I don't blame other wrestlers for not wanting to work with him. You know, when you've got so many of these vets, in a lot of cases legends, that have turned around and said, no, he's so sloppy and holds everybody else in disregard, and it was just, why would you? He's an unsafe worker, Apparently nobody told him wrestling is fake.
Yeah.
No. As I said, he didn't let up on that kick. You could go back. That's on YouTube too. You can go back and watch that kick. He didn't even look, right? So he was looking the complete opposite way when he threw the kick. And he didn't. You're meant to pull it back. You know how when they do their punches, they're not following through really on the punches. They're pulling it up. So they're touching, but they're pulling it up, so they're not full blown punching, right?
Right.
Because
it's like movie fighting. As soon as they feel contact, the person getting hit is supposed to draw back like they've been hit, and the person hitting is supposed to draw back.
Yes. And because you're so focused on their hands, you're not realizing that they're stomping at the same time as they're punching. That's what's helping with the sound. All right.
Yeah.
Sometimes even with the slap.
Unless it's Ric Flair. He was really taking people's chest out.
Yeah, he was. But there's a lot of people too. I've been on that other side. When we were taught to slap, right? When you're slapping someone's chest, because the audience is so focused on your hand slapping their chest, they're not watching your other hand, and so you got to time. It's all about timing. When you're slapping their chest, you're slapping your thigh to get that sound, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want to get, right? So. Except for Ric Flair, like you said, Ric Flair chopped the crap out of you. Rick didn't care.
I mean, I've seen interviews with guys going, "No, that really hurt. That
Yeah.
shit really."
And see, you're taught to cup your hand too to get a nice sound as well. You know, when you cup your hand, you'll get that sound too.
Yep.
But no, there was some, as I said, that would just slap. I mean, slapping, yeah, it's going to light you up, but it's not going to hurt as much as say a full blown punch. It hurts you. You know what I mean? So, you could continue a match after a slap, but might take the wind out of you a little bit, depending on how hard you get hit. Could you imagine, like, Big Show full-blown slapping you on the chest? Jesus Christ, he'd almost cave your chest.
You not only would you fly across the ring and out of it, you'd probably you'd be in the third row.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. But, no, look, this guy's really just got to leave it alone.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I said, even his animosity and jealousy of Triple H. Look, at the end of the day, Triple H was just smarter than you, bro, and better on that mic, better in that ring, better at storytelling. You know, I'd always take Triple H aside, and you know, because you know he tried to work with him, and Goldberg, like Triple H even said in an interview like years and years ago, he was a little bit afraid getting in there with him because he didn't know if he was going to full blown just attack him and hurt him, like really, really hurt him. Because of the hatred and animosity, right. You don't want that. I know guys, we all know guys that have got in that ring where there's legitimate heat, but yet they still look after each other. They don't go in there to take each other's heads off and stuff, you know, they keep it professional. That's how it should be. As I said, you don't have to get along, you don't have to send Christmas cards to each other, you don't have to be best buddies.
And I can guarantee you there are times when those guys that are mad at each other, they've taken cheap shots at each other, but never to permanently hurt each other. You know, probably hit a little bit harder than we're supposed to, or threw somebody down a little bit harder than they were supposed to, you know.
Yeah, exactly, Yobi. Yobi said, glad Asuka beat his streak, her body of work in New Japan, bar none. Exactly. Yep. Well deserving, man. And I love the fact, in reality, because it made it different, that it was a female. And you built a female that was this I mean, she's not even the biggest person in the ring, but an unstoppable force, especially with her legs, man, like her kicks and everything. Good God.
Yep.
But no, she was deserving of it. And I'm quite sure one day her streak will be broken by somebody, right? Because at the end of the day, records are meant to be broken. It's just like anything. So Bill just needs to get over himself and, you know, do like
whatever. The only record that'll probably never be broken is like Bruno Sammartino's and those guys that held it for like, 14 years.
Exactly. But on to the next topic, which is an interesting one, and it really made me think too. So Jim Ross opened up on if Owen Hart will ever be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And with what he said, it really makes you think, would his wife change her mind on her stance now? And I'll get into why. So Owen Hart, well and truly worthy of a WWE Hall of Fame induction. That has never, ever been in question. Unfortunately, ongoing tensions between Owen's widow, Dr. Martha Hart, and the WWE, specifically with its former chairman, Vince McMahon, are often seen as a lone barrier to Owen's induction. However, now that Vince has been separated from his empire, could we see the relationship between WWE and Dr. Hart repaired? On a recent episode of Grilling JR, the former WWE head of talent relations talked about the likelihood of Owen Hart finally getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. He says, and I quote, "I bet she could give permission. Maybe the bigger question is, will she?" JR said. "I could see it being worked out a lot easier now than previous, now that McMahon is out of the picture. If Martha likes it and feels good about the comfort zone, then why not?" Now, Martha's grievances, as we're well aware, have not extended to pro wrestling as a whole. In recent years, she's allowed Owen's likeness to be used on AEW programming, namely the Owen Hart Cup tournament, and his inclusion as a playable character in the video game Fight Forever. As a current employee of AEW, JR believes Martha's attitude toward the wrestling industry has tempered somewhat. He said, "She's such a pleasure to work with. She's not angry at pro wrestling anymore. She's heartbroken that things happened to Owen like they did, as we all would be. But I'd say the odds of Owen being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame have increased immensely since Vince's resignation. So since Triple H has assumed more power behind the scenes, he's been seen as something of a peacemaker. CM Punk immediately comes to mind, but it goes as far back as 2013 when Triple H helped soften tensions with Bruno Sammartino, ultimately leading to his Hall of Fame induction. Given Triple H's track record, burying the hatchet with Martha Hart doesn't seem as far-fetched as it once did. And Triple H was actually friends with Owen Hart, you know, when Owen Hart was still alive, and Triple H was on the up and up. So, what's your thoughts on this, brother?
I was going to say also, Brett wants his brother in that Hall of Fame.
Yes.
We know that.
Yeah, but we know it's also not up to Brett.
But no. But what I'm saying is Brett has approached his sister-in-law a few times, and there was heat between them for a while because of it. But hopefully that's smoothed over now too. So yeah, I could see it happening. I hope it does. What's funny is it's going to sound really weird. I was thinking about that before. I didn't even know about all this stuff, but I was thinking about this the other night. You know that maybe it's time that now that Vince is gone, that they approach Martha again and say, "Hey, look, this isn't about Vince. This isn't about WWE. It's about letting the fans celebrate your husband."
Yes.
You know, because that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Is the fans want to celebrate that which was Owen Hart.
And
you know?
and well, the then WWF was a huge part with him. Even when Brett left to WCW, he stayed loyal, and he had an illustrious career there. I mean, I still to this day think that he should have been a multiple-time world champion there because he had world champion written all over him. And look,
again, that's Vince being an idiot.
Yeah,
that's
no,
Vince
it is
going,
not taking
Vince going. I hate your brother, so I'm going to make you suffer.
Yeah, not taking anything away from Bret Hart, but I always thought Owen Hart was the better wrestler and entertainer. He had more charisma than Bret. He oozed charisma. He could wrestle any style. Bret was also, you know, as we're well aware, mainly a technician. He could brawl a little bit, but mainly a technician. But Owen Hart literally could wrestle any style that you could think of. You wanted him to wrestle luchador type style, he could do it. You want him to brawl, he could do it. You want him to be a technician, he could do it. You wanted him to wrestle Japanese style, he could do it. The man could talk. He had more charisma than blooming Shawn Michaels. In reality, he really did.
To me, in the ring, Bret Hart had more charisma. Bret Hart was a bigger character in the ring. I don't know if that's just because of the way they.
That's because of the way they presented him. But Bret was very. Yeah. Bret will admit he was never ever the best talker on a microphone. Owen Hart could talk your ear off. Owen Hart was that's where I mean he was better than Bret in that regard. Like Bret was more serious, straightforward. Like Bret had the wrestling skills, but he didn't really have the entertaining skills. You know, like Owen. Owen could entertain you. Like Shawn Michaels, I put over Bret Hart only just for the simple fact is he had the wrestling ability, but he also had the storytelling and the mic skills. You know what I mean? So he had that all round. And Owen was the same. He just was never, ever showcased beyond the mid-card, which was really, really unfortunate. Because he was a main event level player. He should, as I said, he should have been. And that was unfortunate. But back to the subject at hand, I think more so than any other time previously that there's a significantly good chance that one day soon, obviously won't be this year, may not even be next year, but one day soon, they'll get him into the WWE Hall of Fame. Now that Vince is gone, now that he's not associated with it, and you know he's completely away from it, because at the end of the day, that's really who she had the biggest problem with, because it was his decision to keep that pay-per-view going, and the atrocious way that was completely handled.
Not only that, I watched the following night's Raw the other night, just totally by accident, by the way. I was watching one of the feud things, and that was the night that came up. And the night following that, or no, I'm sorry, that was some, but yeah, they didn't speak about it, and they didn't, they don't, he just didn't, I hate the way Vince, whenever anything goes bad, Vince just kind of made it all disappear,
Yes, sweep it
even
under the
behind the
rug. Yeah,
scenes. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's what hurt her most.
Yes, the way that was handled was so poorly on several accounts. Like as
Yeah.
I've mentioned before, I felt sorry for every single man and woman wrestler that had to follow that. That was disgusting by Vince. No, sorry, cancel the fucking pay per view, give the fans back their money. But all he cared about was some bucks. All he cared was the money he would get from the advertisers and Mark. So what? A guy just died, giving his life to your company, and so I don't blame her at all. And
No.
if I was in that position, I would blame him. I'd hate his guts too. Like, you killed because you made my husband go to a height that he didn't want to even go to. There was no need for him to be the Blue Blazer. There was no need for him to be up on the rafters coming down. Like, he wasn't Sting. This is a man that, he was okay with getting on top of a ladder and getting on top of a top, but that height, he had a fear of heights. He kept stressing he didn't want to do it. He told Brett, he told anybody that would listen. And Vince still made him do it. And being the company man that he was, he just, did what he was told.
Yep.
That was a mistake by Owen in a sense, but he should have really just said, look, I'm not going out. I don't give a crap. You want to fire me, fire me. I'm not doing it,
Right.
But, because he was such a loyal guy, and hats off to him for being a loyal guy and just wanting to do the right thing by your boss, but it was just so messed up in so many ways and so mishandled. But now, as I said, now that he's gone, I agree with JR. Clearly, again, like JR mentioned, it's still going to be up to her decision in that. But JR pointed out that Triple H might be key here. Apart from Vince not being a part of it anymore, Triple H might be key here. I mean, as I said, there was bad blood between Vince and WWE and Bruno. And that was Triple H that made that happen. We knew there was bad blood previously between Punk and WWE, and Triple H has made that happen. So I think if Triple H gets in a room with her and they hash things out and they have a good talk, especially because she would be well aware that Triple H was actually friends with her husband. So, and so, I'm quite sure Triple H has a totally different view on things. He probably doesn't like how Vince handled either, because he lost a friend. A lot of them lost a friend. Owen was very, very likable. But I don't think there was a single person on the roster at the time that had bad things to say about him. And a lot of them were quite close with him and friends with him. So, yeah, I'm sure Triple H may be able to work something out. It's all going to be just a matter of time, I think. And I know, the old age saying is time heals all wounds. I would like to hope now that door might be somewhat open. Because clearly Vince being there was the big hurdle. Now that he's gone, I could actually see this happening. But again, it is up to her. It truly is. But I think she needs to sort of rethink her stance and have a good conversation, as I said, with Triple H. And he needs to be honoured in that company because he had a long career in that company. And he did a lot in that company. He won Kings of the Ring. He won championships. So it would be lovely. And as I said, we've seen WWE over the years and wrestlers that have been on the outs with them repair relationships. So this could be just another one. And as I said, I think Triple H is key here. So if it's going to happen, it's going to be up to her decision, and it's also going to be up to Triple H. Triple H is going to have to be the one to reach out, put it that way. They can't sit back and expect her to come to them. He's going to have to reach out, put the feelers out there and say, hey, how do you feel about this? Would you like to have a conversation with me? And maybe we can work something out. And if you feel comfortable, we'll do it,
you
And
know, this year's Hall of Fame is this weekend, so
yeah.
but they could start working on next year because it'd be
Mm.
long overdue even then.
And I'll tell you what, if it happens or when it happens, he's going to be the biggest name of that particular year's Hall of Fame. He would be the main event,
Yep.
so to speak. You know, and it'd be such a fulfilling and great moment. So I think the door's open. It's just a matter of waiting and seeing now. And as I said, I think Triple H will have to reach out and have some discussions, and they can sort of, go from there. But moving on to our next topic, we've got 3 topics to go. So The Rock, The Rock's come out and bluntly denies recent report. In his own words, he said the story is complete horseshit.
Which story are we talking about? I saw that in the list, and I'm not sure what story we're talking
Okay,
about.
so I'll read this and this comes from Wrestling Inc. So, ever since turning heel, The Rock has adopted, as we're well aware, a more edgy version of his villainous persona, more the Attitude Era Rock, often candidly swearing in promos while addressing Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. A recent report, however, alleged there was some pushback from TKO about his language, and that talent was similarly upset, but Rock has shot down the report in a public comment on social media, saying the story is complete horseshit. He said it on his Twitter. The report in question made the claim that the locker room was upset by what they perceived as a double standard for Rock, and that this has been the norm when it came to the People's Champ. The report also asserted that an unnamed source believes The Rock's position on the board of TKO Group Holdings allows him to do whatever the hell he wants. Additionally, due to having a team of representatives, Rock would not be directly dealing with any of the backlash. Lastly, it even stated that the same source compared Rock's return to the era of Vince McMahon's double standards for big stars. Rock notably referenced the recent reports about him in an Instagram post where he took a far more light-hearted approach to the news. However, he seems to genuinely be upset about this particular report based on his comment. While there likely isn't cause for legal action, it's still telling that Rock couldn't simply let it slide. But for now, a nasty clapback from the Great One would just be enough to set the record straight. So he's quite upset by this report, and you were talking about this earlier about
but see,
people.
it's hard when he gets like this. It's hard to differentiate what's The Rock and what's Dwayne Johnson. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah, exactly.
Because this still could be feeding into the whole thing, basically. You know, any press is good press at this point. He knows that.
Yeah,
You know.
but look, I don't think there's a double standard. I think, because he is a megastar, that maybe there might be some backstage that's a little bit upset that he can get away with certain things or using certain words and stuff. Whereas if they said it, they'd have their hands slapped and told off.
Right.
And it probably does help his case too that he is on the board. But it's hard to know because you're not backstage,
Yeah.
You're not backstage, so you don't know if there is actually people upset. You don't know if there is.
And even if there were at this point, they're not going to say anything to his face. Oh God, no.
No. Well, at the end of the day, I know he's saying it as a storyline on the TV, but he is technically their boss. He's Triple H's boss. He's higher than Triple H, so it's and he's very, very close with the owner of the whole kit and caboodle.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Right, but he does have to be careful not to get it. And I don't know if he's going to get himself in the position that Vince put himself in, where he played favorites and he did, and he did this crap because I can. So
No. I don't think he is like that. Like at the end of the day, he's a Hollywood movie star now, and
Right.
that pay, wrestling's like secondary for him now. But he still has a great passion and love for it, clearly because of his family, clearly because at the end of the day, he wouldn't be the movie star that he is if he didn't have his wrestling run, right?
Right.
And so he's paying back, and I actually think Rock's the type of person that he just wants to help guys and help the company. And I really think.
Oh yeah,
that
I'm just saying that's why I think even I think some of the stuff he posted on Twitter may be partially
it might be, yeah,
storyline.
yeah,
You know.
you know. Because he's really getting Cody Rhodes over big time. Like,
Right.
big time. I
Yeah.
mean, Cody was over, but now he's really getting him, helping him get
Yep.
over to probably become the number one guy in the whole of WWE, right?
Right.
Um, I still have this funny feeling that maybe he turns on Roman, but I don't know. We have to wait to WrestleMania to see. But look, even if there is some truth to this, look, he's obviously a little bit upset about it. If there's any, if it's Dwayne Johnson, as I was saying, so you just don't
Right.
really know. But it could be him just coming out saying, "Well, look, I'm calling horse shit on it because I haven't heard any complaints. Nobody's come to me complaining. Triple H hasn't said anything, So maybe it's that way. You got to look at it from every sort of
Yep.
direction here and every way. But yeah, it's interesting. But look, at the end of the day, he's come back. He's made wrestling edgy. He's made it cool again. And he's really helping in this whole storyline, but helping with WrestleMania, that star power that they needed, considering they weren't going to have Brock there. They're not having Punk there in a wrestling or in ring capacity. So it's good, especially for WrestleMania. You kind of need that star power, and I just think it's funny though from the story perspective that, and I think Cody called it out. Like, who really is the big head honcho here? Is it the Tribal Chief or is it the final boss? Because I think The Rock's
Yeah.
overshadowing Roman Reigns. I really do. He really is overshadowing Roman
He
Reigns.
is. He absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it was funny to see him acknowledge him a couple of weeks back. I know he's playing the heel and that, but I don't know if you've seen the same thing that I seen. When he was acknowledging Roman, there was hesitance in his face. The
Yeah.
facial expression said to me, "I'll do this, but I don't really mean it."
Right.
As far as I'm concerned,
That's why.
I'm the
That's
damn
why I'm
head of
saying
that.
this just helps set up what's going to be probably the biggest WrestleMania in many
Well,
years.
I think
So
that
yeah.
he turns on Roman and they set up a match because there's still that talk that they want those two to go at it at one of the Saudi shows,
Right.
and headline a Saudi show. So I think he turns on him.
Yeah.
I think he
We can
turns on
talk
him.
about WrestleMania next weekend. Next week is a great week to check because that's going to be right before the show, and
But
we should have the full card by next Monday as well. So
I've got the pretty much set in stone card as is right. Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a little minute. We'll get
yeah.
on to this second last topic.
Yeah.
This was interesting too. So Kevin Nash, if anyone remembers, the good old days of WCW, you remember the Sturgis shows where it was out in the open. You had all the bikers turn up with their bikes and everything. It was always, to me, it always was really, really cool. Something totally freaking different, to being in an arena.
Yeah, but anybody who's been around Sturgis for the motorcycle thing knows that it's a shit show out there.
Yeah,
Seriously.
so he
It's
explains why it was a shit show. Because here's one thing I know before I get into this. They actually did that for free.
Oh, wow.
WCW didn't make a ton of money off of that. They put it on for free. But so it was called Road Wild. I think initially it was called Hog Wild. But WCW's Road Wild event in 1998, for example, saw Diamond Dallas Page team up with TV host Jay Leno against Hogan and Bischoff. So on his Click This, WWE Hall of Famer and WCW Hall of Famer Kevin Nash, who was recently invited to Sting's retirement match, but opted not to attend, reflected on that controversial match. He said, "You want to talk about what killed WCW? Jay Leno. I think he had Hogan in an armbar," Nash said. "You're going to tell me Jay Leno's going to get you in an armbar and that's believable?" In the end, Page and Leno picked up the win, with the host of the Jay Leno show pinning Bischoff in his first and only wrestling match to date. Nash said Sturgis, South Dakota, the location of the Road Wild pay-per-views, was a shit show. "We had a battle royal in Sturgis," Nash recalled, "and I stood over the effing top rope and just effing stepped down. They were throwing shit. I was like, F this." The crowd was just literally throwing full bottles of beer and God only knows what at us. So
Yeah.
the match Nash exited early from was the NWO Invitational Battle Royal at Road Wild 98, which Goldberg ended up winning. Nash eliminated himself from that bout after just 1 minute and 31 seconds. When asked about his dislike for Sturgis, Nash said, "I think it was more the fact that we were staying in a quality inn." Notably, WCW held four free annual shows in Sturgis, that coincided with the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, with the first show in '96 being called Hog Wild. Pay-per-view was renamed Road Wild the following year because of potential trademark issue, with that name sticking until the show was discontinued in 1999 because they were just putting out more money than bringing in. As I said, they were a spectacle. I loved the setting and everything, don't get me wrong. But to put it on for free was a big mistake. Big mistake. Why are you putting on a pay-per-view for free? Oh.
Well, and it wasn't only that. I mean, the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is a wild. They had no control of that show. You know,
They didn't.
None, because those people are drunk. You know, the whole
They
time
are.
they're there, and they're belligerent, and they're, you know, I'm sure it's a fun time when you're there, but you know, but damn, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, as Nash said, he should have been in that match longer. Clearly, he was scripted to, and he took himself out because he was sick of being hit in the head with beer bottles, beer cans, and God only knows what.
Yeah.
You know,
And you're just assuming it's beer because I can guarantee you probably wasn't.
no, and you know, from his perspective, look, this is unsafe. We're here to entertain these people, and they're literally throwing stuff at us that could bust us open, or you know, whatever. So apart from being free, like he said, there was more to it that made it a shit show. The raucous crowd, and he's like he said that the second last one that they ever did, like Jay Leno, really, Jay Leno, like he said, it was just ridiculous from a storyteller. At the end of the day, they're in there to tell a story, yes, but you got to make the goddamn thing believe. How is it believable that Jay Leno could get anybody in any type of wrestling? He's not a wrestler. He's not a trained wrestler. Like
the way I would have made it work is you make him like pull out a chair, pull out a bat, you know,
or something. Yeah, like swing something, but doing an actual wrestling move, like no. And so, you know, a lot of those guys hated doing those Sturgis shows, and because they were doing it for free, there was no paycheck for that particular show.
Oh, even the wrestlers weren't getting paid. Holy shit. No way, dude.
Yeah. I mean, yes, they had their contracts in that, but, you know, like most pay-per-views, you get a bit extra for pay-per-views and that. And they didn't for that. Well, how could they? They weren't making any money off the damn thing. Like, when I first ever heard about that, and I was like, oh, I love those road wild, you know, just the setting. But then I found out they're doing them for free, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what kind of stupid thinking is that? You know, they could have made a ton of money off that pay-per-view alone with the amount of people that were in town for that motorcycle rally.
Oh, yeah. They could have charged, because I remember there used to be a quote reality show where they went there every year and they recorded this guy.
Even if they
everything was overpriced and stupid. I mean, they could have made bank.
If they charged $50 to $100 for entry into the thing, right? Everybody that was coming in with their motorcycles, whatever, they would have made a killing. Like, so I used to, when I first found, I was like, that was the most stupidest move, and that probably also played a part in the downfall. Like, there could have been more money there by when you're doing those shows, you know, but you didn't charge. I was like, what the hell? But look, as good as they were, as I said, and it was a different environment, different setting. You know, at the end of the day, wrestlers' safety is a key too, and none of them felt safe going out there, which I don't blame them. Because they're only in town for their motorbikes and the rally and drinking, and you know. So it was interesting, and as I said, it came off good on TV. It looked cool, but you know, at the end of the day, it was just a shit show and a free shit show.
Right.
A free one.
Yeah, and I mean, and any good production knows you can make something look cool, but you've still got to make sure your wrestlers and everybody is safe.
Yeah.
So what they could have done is they should have put up fencing around the whole thing after they saw what happened the first year. You know, you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna put up chain link fence, so if you guys do throw shit, at least most of it will get stopped. Like they do in really rowdy bars, you know, where they have the chicken wire in front of the band just for that reason.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, no, interesting stuff, interesting stuff. But on to the last topic, and as I said, it's WrestleMania season, so we're going to talk WrestleMania. The card is pretty much set in stone. I think the only thing that they're waiting on at the moment is um, the winner of Legado del Fantasma and New Catch Republic, which this is happening on SmackDown this week, and A Town Down and Street Profits.
Yeah, the basically the last of the for the 6 teams that are
For
going to
the
go at it.
six pack
Yeah.
tag team, yeah. So they're just waiting on that. So we'll just skip over that match for the time because we don't actually know who's going to actually take on, um,
Well,
or
even if
who's
we
going to
knew
join
all
it.
six, I mean, we really can't out of 6 teams. There's no way we're going to know what the hell
No,
they're going
well,
to
the
do.
only teams we know that's a part of this six pack tag team ladder match right now is obviously the Judgment Day because they're defending their titles. DIY is in, Awesome Truth is in, New Day is in, and so now they're just waiting for whoever's going to take it out on SmackDown. Um, but we've got quite a few other matches, right? So we've got a triple threat match, the United States Championship. Logan Paul defending against Randy Orton, Kevin Owens. That's going to be a fire match. But I foresee, my prediction is I foresee Logan Paul. I said it. If he didn't drop it at the last pay per view, he will drop it here at WrestleMania. Um, and I think he'll drop it to Randy Orton. I think Randy Orton is going to be the one to win the triple threat match. What's your thoughts, brother?
Really, because I think most of the heat between Logan's been between Logan and KO, so I wouldn't be surprised if they give it to KO,
Yeah.
or or maybe just KO stops him from using them stupid brass knuckles, and so that's how Randy gets the win because maybe KO gets decked with the knuckles and Randy takes the knuckles off of Logan and beats him with them. You
Well, either that
know?
or I was going to lead off of that. So he hits because he's got his focus on KO. He hits KO with the knuckles and then he turns around into an RKO.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but I think it'll still be a really really good match.
Yeah.
Three very talented guys. But look, I want to see Randy win a title. It's been a
Yeah.
long time since we've seen a title around Randy Orton's waist. Kevin Owens recently had a tag team goal with Sami Zayn, so I want to see Randy win a title. I want to see him win the United States Championship, and um, I think that they possibly will give him the win here. Then, of course, we're going to have a real big grudge match. And we've seen Mr. LA Knight turn up at AJ Styles' house and get arrested, storyline wise. LA Knight against AJ Styles. Who you got, bro? This is interesting because it really could go either way, but I think LA Knight deserves the big WrestleMania win.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, I would not be surprised to see if all the big names that have come back over the last few months, last year, if they get some good wins this week or at WrestleMania,
Yeah.
because they're all hot right now. They're all fucking they're
Yeah.
smoking,
Oh
they
yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But look, I
Yeah.
think LA Knight needs a huge win. You know, they had him
Yeah.
lose twice to Roman. You know, I think they need to build that momentum back up again. He's got momentum there, but you really need to build it back up. I think
No,
he needs
but
his
I,
WrestleMania
I
moment.
was just thinking about it though. The last couple of weeks they've really kind of cooled on him
Yes.
as far as appearances and stuff. He hasn't been
Yes.
around.
No. So I think they need to give him the big win here. I think he needs it from
Yep.
a character's perspective, to keep him, you know, towards the top of that card. So, you know, even if it is upper mid cut, but to keep him up the top of that card. And he needs his WrestleMania moment. AJ Styles has had WrestleMania moments, so I think it's LA Knight's time, and yeah, that should be a really really good match. Then we got the two brothers, Jay against Jimmy. I think main event Jay Uso is going to come out on top here though, especially because they've had Jimmy getting the best of him leading into this.
Yeah.
And I've said the whole time, I think Jay's got a bigger career ahead of him as a solo guy over Jimmy. Not taking anything away from Jimmy, I think he's done really well with this sort of new persona, new character. But Jay, I think, gets the big win here.
Yeah,
I think it'll be pretty brutal, though. I think it'll be pretty.
I think
Brutal.
yeah. Now see, and that's interesting because they've got Jimmy and Jay are going at it, but then again, they've also got everything that the bloodline is involved this weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see the order in which all this stuff falls.
Yeah.
Because
On what night each is going to be
yeah,
too. I mean, we know the big tag match is night one because we know
right,
Seth and Cody, well, Seth and Roman, sorry, are defending their belts on night two now. So,
right.
um, yeah, it's just all about the placement. As I said, we'll skip over the 6-pack challenge. Gunther defending against Sammy. Will Sammy be the one to finally dethrone Gunther and end his historic reign? I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. I don't think you build this guy's momentum back up again. I mean, Sami Zayn has been hot for quite a while. You had him. I still to this day think they should have capitalized on here. Where was it? Elimination Chamber last year and had him defeat Roman with that full momentum that he had going. The guy hasn't lost steam with the crowd and everything.
No.
And I think it's time for Gunther to. I mean, there's no one else for him to beat record wise. He's got the record now, so I think it's time for Gunther to move on to bigger and better things. I think by him dropping the title, he then moves up into the main event scene, which has been talked about for a long, long time now. That he's ready for the main event picture. So I think Sammy gets the big win here and gets the big rub of being the man after everybody that Gunther's run through, being the man to dethrone him. What's your thoughts?
I think, and this actually going to go on to something I wanted to bring up. Almost all the major belts are up for grabs during this WrestleMania.
Yeah, every single one.
Yeah, and so I think we're actually going to see quite a few of them change hands. Actually,
Yes. Yeah.
unlike the last one where we only saw like one of the three that went up change hands when we
Yeah.
all looking in. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of belt moves this week this coming up, which is going to lead into an
Yeah.
exciting year as far as
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
what I can tell. So
So
so yeah,
you're picking
I
Sammy?
think Gunther's going to drop. I think Sammy's going to take it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, we've got Io defending her women's championship against Bailey. This one seems pretty cut and dry. I think there'll clearly be interference, obviously, from Dakota Kai and the others. Asuka might not even be there though because she's injured.
Yeah.
But
One of them
I
got
think
injured, right?
Asuka did, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there'll still be interference, but I think Bailey will get through it
But
and come out on top.
and well, Bailey's got a friend on her side now too. At least one that we know of,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So
I think Bailey will win.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think the way they've been hyping her up and how how big and bad and she's supposed to be, she almost has to win. The way they've been beating the
Yeah.
crap out of her basically.
Yeah, well, Naomi will come. Naomi will come down and
Yeah.
help her out if need be too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think and I've said this time and time again too. Usually when
Hey,
you see,
you know what? Maybe R-Truth will come down and help her. He
yeah,
gets confused.
but no, usually when you watch a storyline, if one
yeah,
side, which is generally the heels, if they're dominating that storyline leading into the match, I would say a good 9 times out of 10, the face ends up winning the match.
Yeah.
Especially when leading into it week in, week out, they've got beat down. Bailey, it's been that case with Bailey. That Damage Control has had it on Bailey, and so I think Bailey overcomes, and I think Bailey becomes the champ. And it's been a minute since she's been a women's champ, so I think she takes that. As for the other women's world title match, that's actually too tough for me to call, man. Rhea's got so much momentum that they could have her retain, and then of course you got big time Bex, who if they want to have Rhea drop it, it would make a lot of logistical sense and make sense that Becky B's the one to topple her. But I really can't pick that match. I really cannot.
I was gonna say, and they've been having the Judgment Day have some issues winning matches and stuff lately.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could be. And the Judgment Day could be losing most of its metal. It's
Yeah, except this is now saying that it'd be interesting if they all lose their belts except for Rhea,
yeah.
which would make a bit more tension. And there was tension a couple of weeks ago between Priest and Rhea because he was
Oh, yeah.
getting sick of her going making decisions. He's like, we don't have a leader, but here you are going making decisions and booking matches, and so
Mm. Yeah,
I
there's more
don't know.
tension
This
tonight
is
too. Before we started, there's more tension tonight
yeah.
too. So,
I
so
I can't really pick anybody here, bro. That's a match really that it could go either way. Becky could either dethrone and win, or Rhea could retain. I really can't pick it. I've looked at the card and I've sort of looked at it and gone, oh, I could pick a winner here, I could pick a winner there, but that match, it's really a flip of the coin. It really is. I don't know, but um, I
again, that's another one
yeah
that's going to depend on where it falls because the rest of the Judgment Day all have stuff going on that night too,
yeah
or that
yeah.
weekend.
So I don't know. How about yourself? Could you pick a winner there, or you're the
No,
same?
I
Yeah,
mean you're
yeah,
right. It's pretty much it could go either way. I could see it going either way.
yeah.
From a
Exactly.
story standpoint, I think it'd be great to see Judgment Day basically because we've talked about Judgment Day breaking up anyway. It'd be great
Yeah,
to watch them
yeah.
drop all their stuff, and then boy, the storyline that could come out of that from the anger and the frustration of everybody dropping their shit.
Exactly.
Plus
Exactly.
you've plus you know what and this doesn't need to. Senior Money in the Bank still has that briefcase.
I know.
Just got to throw that out there.
I know. I don't know when he's going to bloody try to cash it in. I still think he's going to lose when he goes to cash it in, but that's beside the point. I just don't know when he's going to cash it in. But then we come to the big three remaining matches. So, obviously, the match that's going to headline and end night one, we have the bloodline in The Rock and Roman Reigns taking on Cody and Seth.
Right.
Now, I've gone back and forth on this, but I've come to a decision. I think. Now, I said I still think Rock's going to turn on Roman, but I don't think it's in this match. I think
No.
Rock and Roman beat Cody and Seth night one, right? Well, the simple fact is, having that match between Roman and Cody be bloodline rules, so there is more adversary yet again for Cody to get through, and him toppling that, right, beating Roman in a bloodline rules match
Right.
where they can all interfere and shit, like, I think's just going to make it a bigger, more momentous win for him. So I actually think Roman and Rock are going to win on night one. I really do.
And I've said and somebody pointed out that if anybody can interfere, that goes both ways, by the way.
Yeah.
And Cody's not going alone this time.
No, and here's another thing, and I've seen it being talked about, and hey, I could see it happening. We know there's history there between Seth and Cody. Maybe the reason why they lose the match is Seth turns on Cody.
Right.
Right? Because, and Cody's admitted, they're not friends. They've come together for a common enemy.
Right.
But there's so much talk still of Rock turning on Roman. But then I've also heard the talk, maybe Seth turns on Cody. I said, well, maybe, because him and Roman have been referring to each other as brothers. I mean, they came in together. They were a part of the bloody Shield and everything, right?
Yep.
And in reality,
and really, you could almost have a triple cross set up here.
well, it is because when you watch this,
well, because listen, because Seth could betray Cody on night one, cost him the match, and then come around after Seth wins his title on night two. He could come around and help Cody win his title on night two, and they wouldn't be expecting it because they would think he'd come out there on their side. So
no.
you can look
the
at
other thing is I've noticed during this
there's all kinds of
right?
weird, wacky stuff that could go on there.
Seth hasn't really had an issue with Roman per se. His issue's been with The Rock, right?
Yep.
And he's kind of kept Roman out of his mouth quite a bit because, they're friends or brothers, I guess you could say, when they were in the Shield and that. So there hasn't even been really any animosity or any heat there. And even with Roman's been so focused on Cody, not necessarily Seth.
Right.
Whereas Rock's been taking the shots. So that's why I think there could be that double cross.
And that could also just be them splitting.
I mean, there's a third option. Maybe Seth turns on Cody in the match, but then The Rock turns on Roman, and then they swap partners in the match. So then you got Cody and Rock taking on Seth and Roman. You know, who knows which way they're going to go. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to go with, I think, Rock and Roman beat. So because, like Rock said, if Rock and Reigns win, the championship match on night 2 will be held under Bloodline rule, and I think it will be under Bloodline rule. It's just going to make it a more significant win.
And I pointed out to you when the weeks that we were going, remember I said that in a wrestling on a response to WWE tweet, and thousands of people have liked my post. I'm like, why can't I get where they lose on night 1, which opens up the rules thing, and they win on night 2? Interference be damned. And everybody is the only ones that are going no because Cody deserves to lose because he cost us the match we really wanted to see. Yeah. I'm like, nobody really. I mean, yeah, people wanted to see that 5 years ago, but it wouldn't have been the same heat. You're not going to have two good guys go at it on a WrestleMania. You know, it's not going to happen. No. Or two guys that are
what
buddy together.
Yobi said. He goes, "Hell, if what Triple H signs Jacob Fatu, because he's a free agent now, keeps it a secret, and Jacob interferes in Cody's match, thinking he's going to attack Cody. In turn, he attacks Roman to set up Bloodline versus Bloodline. Jacob and the Usos versus Roman, Solo, and The Rock down the road. Just throwing it out there. Hey, you know, actually, there's two. There's Jacob and there's a younger one, also from MLW. That's a part of the Annoy fan. They're both free agents right now. Man, all of that would be pretty cool too. But which brings us to Roman and Cody. As far as I'm concerned, Roman's dropping the title. Cody's getting the big win. As I said, I think the adversary's going to be there with the whole Bloodline rules. I think that will be implemented because I think that Cody will lose on night 1. But it's just going to make this a grander win. It's going to make it a more meaningful win. Cody's been through all this hell and back for 12 months, and now he's got to take on every member of the Bloodline that's going to come in and interfere. And for the first time ever, the interference ain't going to work to favour Roman. It's going to all backfire, and Cody's going to dethrone him, and Roman's going to spit chips in the ring. And this year, it's going to be Roman crying instead of Cody. All right? So,
yeah.
Cody's winning.
And I think from a standpoint of, if they don't let him finish his story at this WrestleMania this year, people are going to go, well, screw you, because
they have to.
We're building up all this shit again, and you're going to pull this same crap again.
Yeah,
no.
They have to. You know? They have to. He has to finish it. It has to end. Tough shit. You just wanted him to beat Hogan's record. Where it can't happen now. That they've put themselves back in another hole again here. There's no ifs, buts, maybes about it. You have to have Cody win this. Because the fans are getting sick of the whole kit and caboodle. They just want to see him win. It's done. You can't take this any further. You couldn't even go, we're going to have him lose but then win at SummerSlam. People aren't going to be interested in waiting another several months for it. It has to happen at WrestleMania. You've set it all up there. Hogan's record's going to stay in place. End of. People are sick. Look, I've loved the whole Reigns run, but people are sick of seeing him as champion. People are sick of him having this run now. He's more away than he is there. You've pointed that out clearly several times, but it's the fact that
you're saying I got one track, huh? Yeah. And that's where I'm at. Yeah, damn straight.
But look, his whole heel persona has been great for him. His run initially for that first 2 years was great. We've all enjoyed the Bloodline storyline all the way when Sammy was included, everything, right? But I've said this for the last 12 months. It should have ended 12 months ago. They have tried to stretch this out. It's gotten boring. It's gotten predictable. It's gotten repetitive. And people are just over it. Like, it's gone too long now. And it's all about knowing when to end something and move forward. It should have ended 12 months, but now we're here. It's got to end here. He loses. See you later. Go away to Hollywood for a while. I don't want to see you on my TV screen. You know, because people, you know, you can see it, you can hear it in the fan. I've talked to many fans. People are sick of Roman Reigns as champion. You need a champion that's going to be there.
Yep.
But it's also people are over that storyline now. It's dragged on too long. It's gone.
Well, in a sense, that storyline is picking up again. That's because of The Rock.
Yeah,
and
it's
and
only because of The Rock.
Because of The Rock. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason people are invested again is because of The Rock.
Yeah, and nobody really cares about the record anymore because of the fact that, as you mentioned, and I've mentioned ad nauseum, he's never there, and he's supposed to be there less this year than he was last year.
Yeah, because if he had put it this way, if they had gone with their original plan, which obviously clearly the plan has changed, and had him beat Hogan's record, then even though I cannot stand Hulk Hogan, I would have been one of many that would have come out and said, big asterisks against that, because when Hogan set his record, he was wrestling night in, night out. He was always there. That's how he got it. Bruno Sammartino held that damn belt for, what was it, 3, 4, 5 years, was wrestling night in, night out to do it. Not sitting at home racking up 100 and odd freaking days or 150 odd days, right? No. That's why I would, I'm sorry, but I hope one day, obviously, wait some time to do it, that they have someone knock Roman's record right out of the history books, but that someone is wrestling night in, night out to do it. Because I'm sorry, that's more significant than sitting at home racking up the days. Yep. It just is.
When you're sitting at home racking up 31 days or 60 days because you're sitting at home and you're not going to shows, that doesn't count as far as I'm concerned.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. But, you know, that's how they make it count. But that's why I've said, right? In my opinion, Gunther's record-setting pace and his record, to me, is above Roman's, because Gunther has done it week in, week out, wrestled almost every single week, or at least even been there every single week, right? His is more significant. His IC title reign has been more significant than Roman Reigns' Universal title reign.
Yep.
Because I prefer someone that's actually there and wrestling more often than not. He doesn't have to be defending the title every week, but as long as he's wrestling. He could be wrestling a freaking tag match for all I care. Right. You're still on the television, you're still wrestling. I mean, Hogan in WCW, he wouldn't defend his title with being in the NWO every week, but he was on the programming each and every week, and generally would wrestle in some sort of match, right? Or even doing something in a backstage brawl, you know, whatever. But the thing was, he was there. So there was consistency in that. Roman hasn't been this last year. You know? That's why I'm like, at the end of the day, there's still an asterisk against his run. Even though he's not going to topple Hogan's, there's still an asterisk about that. You know, they can say it's historic and everything like that, but one day, maybe it's Gunther. Gunther gets the world title and they have him go be a Bruno Sammartino and completely smash all the bloody records. The thing that I will love about it is that he'll be there. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's not looking to go to Hollywood. He loves professional wrestling, so he will be there. You know, so
and I can't even say that Roman's been active in the whole going to Hollywood thing either. From what we can tell, he's just sitting at home. You know, maybe he's just reading scripts or something. I don't know, but he's not. You know.
I think he has.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly my point, Yobi. He wasn't wrestling each and every week, but he was there every week. Like, he was on every, or I would say a good 90% of Nitros. And several Thunders. That was the thing with Hogan, you know. So, you know, again, look, nothing against Roman. I think the guy, as I said, this heel character has been the best character he's ever done, and I think it was great for his career. The Bloodline story for quite some time was very interesting. You know, people were right into it. but the last 12 months, people are just sick of it, and they're just sick of him. And as I said, the only reason there's any interest still in it right now is because of The Rock, plain and simple. And because obviously, as I said, the other thing is people want to see bloody Cody finally finish this damn story, so we can move on to bigger and better bloody things.
Yeah.
But look, that's definitely going to happen. As for the other World Heavyweight Championship match, ooh, again, this is sort of like Rhea and Becky. This is a tough one. But unlike the Becky, I think this one's just a little less tough. I'm actually picking Drew to dethrone Seth Rollins. I think maybe there was something between Triple H and Drew backstage to keep him around kind of thing, or keep him interested in signing a new contract. Hey, we'll make you champion. And I think it's time for a heel to be the champion when it pertains to that particular championship. They created that championship, and Seth's had a hell of a run, but he's had a hell of a run, and he's a babyface. So I think, especially if you're going to have a babyface in Cody Rhodes become the other champion, I think it's Drew McIntyre's time. And I think, again, it's still tough. They could, because from all accounts, Seth seems all healed and everything. But I have a feeling they're going to give the win to Drew. What do you think?
I think I could go either way. I would like to see Seth beat the crap out of Drew, just from a storyline standpoint.
Yeah.
But I could see that, especially because you're right. If Drew wins, that may mean that he's staying.
Yes.
So
well, I think he wins because I think it's going to set up a certain someone coming back from injury, and those two are going to go at it. I think Drew wins, and it sets up the feud with CM Punk for that World Heavyweight Championship.
Could see that, and that would go over well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a story already there waiting, so maybe Drew wins and Seth just goes on a bit of a hiatus for a little while, go have a rest. He has put Raw on his back and carried it, and he's wrestled most nights. He's a workhorse. I mean, he has lived up to being the workhorse champion. I mean, the guy probably deserves a bloody bit of a break. So I think, regardless if he's fully healed or not, I think if he does drop the title, he probably will go away for a little. I don't know how long exactly, but at least a bit of a hole.
So yeah, if he doesn't, I think between him and CM Punk would be fun too.
See, there's a story there too. See, there's a story for Punk with McIntyre. There's a story there with Rollins.
Yeah.
But how about this? Drew wins, holds the title for a while until Punk's back, and obviously Punk, they're not going to instantly bring him back, I would think. They'd have him have a few matches and then he'd take on Drew. He dethrones Drew, then a returning Seth Rollins comes back, and that's where that feud starts.
Right.
But yeah.
Like I said, no matter what they do, this next year could be fun if they do it right.
Yeah.
And that's
so far it's been a great start to the year for them. They've got a lot of momentum. WWE's in a real good place. The storylines are popping. The matchups have been fantastic. Both Raw and SmackDown have been, must-see shows every week to tune into. Unlike AEW, there's weeks you can miss AEW and you're not missing much.
Right.
But WWE's on fire. They really are.
Yeah.
It's a great time for them right now. Popularity skyrocketing. The game's doing well. I've been enjoying the game, by the way. But they got a lot of they got a lot of momentum here, and I think the momentum coming out of WrestleMania, they just can continue to roll with. It'll be interesting to see, though, as we like to see every year, what stories come out of WrestleMania, because we know WrestleMania is huge, but that Raw the night after WrestleMania is always popping. That's always a fire show, and you usually get a lot of surprises on the show. But they already said there's a lot of surprises for WrestleMania. We know Stone Cold and John Cena are going to be there in some sort of capacity. There's even some rumors flying around. Maybe Stone Cold gets involved in the tag match and comes down against his old foe and takes The Rock out. Makes a lot of sense. They've always were feuding with each other. I don't know what match John Cena may get involved in, but he's supposed to be there. But apparently there's a bunch of other surprises planned too, that haven't sort of been announced yet. But Stone Cold and John Cena, we know, would definitely be there, in some sort of capacity, which is good.
Well, given that it's 40, or what, I wouldn't be surprised to even see like Hogan show up and stuff. And just even if he's just there and they go, oh, look, he's there,
Yeah.
because it is an even numbered one, which makes it a big deal.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really, really big. It could be one of the top 3 WrestleManias in the history by the finish of it. Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic 2-night show, man. Yeah, I'm hyped, bro. I mean, like you said, the hype level is like exploding.
Yeah. One thing we didn't mention, I mentioned it in passing, but could Senior Money in the Bank try to be a spoiler during WrestleMania?
Well, yeah. I mean, he has to cash it in before the next Money in the Bank pay-per-view anyway. But
yeah,
I don't know. All I know is if it's going to happen, it needs to happen on whoever the winner is of Seth and Drew, because you don't want to come down there. I mean, granted, if you come down and do it on Cody and beat Cody, the heat that you would get from that would be off the freaking charts, right? It really would. But I don't want to see that. I don't think any fans would want to see him cash in on. People would just want to see Cody win and Cody have a bit of a run with it, because he deserves a run with it. So if he's going to do it, and
he could cash in on Cody and lose. He could cash in on Cody and lose.
He could cash in on Drew or Seth and lose too. But the other thing is, there's no actually stipulation that it has to be for one of those 2 titles. It could be for the IC title. It could be for the US title too. And there's nothing really stopping him from going after them. I do like your funny one, him coming down and cashing in on Rhea.
That would be hilarious.
Especially because there's been that bickering between the two. That would be funny as hell. It really would be out of this world funny, because no one would be expecting it. Like, she retains against Becky, and then all of a sudden you hear Judgment Day, and I'm like, what the and then he storms down, I'm cashing in. Has an R-Truth moment. But
or again, I was going to say you could have R-Truth get his hands on the briefcase and cash it in, or try to cash it in. On Rhea.
Oh, you're going to love R-Truth, man. But look, this pay-per-view is shaping up to be a banger, man. Like, it really, both nights. The match card, as I said, is built up really nicely. I think, and even though we still, as I said, we still got 3 matches technically, because you got 2, I think they'll all happen on Smack. So you'll have the tag matches that are here. You'll have Legado del Fantasma taking on New Catch Republic, and then A-Town down and Street Profits going out, and then the winners of those 2 matches will probably main event SmackDown to decide who's going to go in as the last team for that match. But I think it won't be any of those teams anyway. I actually think that it'll be either DIY in Gargano and Ciampa, or I think the Awesome Truth, Miz or R-Truth, will come out the winners of that Undisputed Tag Team match.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't think it'll be New Day. They've already had so many reigns, historic reigns too. I think they've won a lot of them. So I don't think they need that rub. But I think it'll be DIY or Awesome Truth. Although it would be funny if... not that it's going to happen, but Bully Ray, aka Bubba Ray, has been hinting that him and Devon are doing something WrestleMania weekend. I said, geez, that'd be funny if they came down with like the last hidden team and they came in and won it. A la like the Hardys came back after all those years and entered I think it was like a 6-pack match and won too. But no, I think the win will either go to DIY, give them, go with the momentum they got, or as I said, Miz and Truth. You know,
Yeah.
either way, Finn and Damien ain't walking out of that match with their belts.
Yeah.
That's for sure. As I said, I think most titles are going to change hands. I think there's just a question mark on whether you're going to have Rhea drop hers, and I think there might be a question mark on
Right.
Seth dropping. They're the only two matches that maybe the champs retain, but Cody's definitely defeating Roman. I think Sammy's definitely defeating Gunter. There's going to be new tag team champions, and I think there's going to be a new United States champion. And I also think Bayley will beat Io. And maybe I'll look at it from this perspective. If Bayley goes over Io and becomes champion, maybe they have Rhea retain. So that way both women's championships aren't... Because it's not like Becky needs it. You know, and that's really still... I mean, I think she's already there, but they're really still pushing Rhea as the number one female on the whole roster, and really cementing her as one of the greatest to ever do it. So maybe, as I said, if Bayley wins, maybe they have Rhea retain. Just like having Cody win, maybe they have Seth retain the other title. Who knows? We're not gonna know until the night, or the two nights, I should say. But
right,
it's gonna be it's gonna be nuts. And I still think because there is rumors that Punk might be there in some sort of commentary type role. I think that he'll show up in that type of... If he's not on commentary, then maybe he's... how they usually have the little panel that's usually doing all the pre-show and that, where there's Booker T and the female and a couple of others. Maybe he's up there on that, but I definitely think he'll be there in some capacity, just to show his face. I know he's going to be at the... they're having something. What's it called? Yeah. Oh, WWE World, I think it's called. Cody's turning up to that as well. That's a big event thing that's going on, I think, across the street. I'm pretty sure, near it, where they're holding it, the actual pay-per-view. So, man, it's just going to be a massive, massive weekend. And the money that comes out of that, whew, WWE going to be walking away laughing.
Well, yeah. I'm sad, though, because my shirt's not going to be here in time for the pay-per-view.
Ah,
I ordered the nightmare shirt, the Seth Rollins, the freaking nightmare shirt, the Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes shirt.
Yeah, I like Yobi's little comedy too. What's not stopping from Austin to interfere and feud with The Rock for you one last time and build it all the way to WrestleMania 41, and then it's Austin winning since he lost to The Rock in his retirement match. Yeah. Hey, man.
Yep.
That would be interesting to see. I'd be all for watching Austin and Rock go at it one more time. That was such a great feud back in the day with those two. And it's funny, they've had 3 matches. Rock's only won one of them. So Austin's 2-1 up as it is. So it could be funny. Maybe they go with your plan, Yobi, and then The Rock wins, and then it's a 2-2 tie, and they can go to WrestleMania 42. have a tiebreaker. I'd be all for it. I don't care. I'll watch Rock and Austin go at it.
At some point, they're going to be coming out there in oxygen mask and shit. Yeah. Okay, I mean,
it's all right. I've seen a post. I don't know if you've seen it. I've seen a poster getting around. What was it, like WrestleMania fucking 60, and you got Roman with grey hair and Cody with fucking grey, and they're all wrinkly and old, going at it, with Roman still with the titles on his freaking shoulders. And
finish the story,
I'm gonna finish this damn story. It was the last thing. They come in there and they got their A-frame cane and everything, and they're fighting with A-frames. Oh man, I was like, that's a funny how someone's aged them. Man, it's going to be a heck of a weekend. I always love WrestleMania weekend because you haven't just got the 2 nights of WrestleMania. You've also got the big NXT Standard Deliver pay-per-view, right? Which actually takes place hours, I believe, before night 1. So night 1 in itself is going to be a huge night and a long night for people turning up to it because you have 3 hours of freaking stand to deliver, and then I'm pretty sure you go across the street, and then you're going to have 4 to 5 hours of freaking wrestling. So just on night one, there's like 7 to 8 hours of wrestling, and then you got another 4 to 5 hours on night two. So there's all up, you're looking at nearly 12 to 13 hours of wrestling just from WWE.
Yeah.
And AEW, thank God, freaking, oh my God, I usually say Tony Khan's a dumbass, but it came out today, while I think of it, smart man, finally, he goes, oh, Collision won't be on that weekend, we're moving it. I was like, yeah, damn right you're moving it, because no one's going to bloody watch Collision when Wrestlemania is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, smart decision. Sad thing about that, I thought, no, it wasn't the Collision just being the Collision beforehand, right? When I seen Edge in the ring, and there's photos and video getting around of it, and he's sitting in the ring with Spike, his weapon that was inspired by Mick Foley, the wood with the nails in it. That arena was 3/4 empty. They showed the side that he was talking to, and then half of the others, and I'm sitting there going, that's sad. They're in this. So there's been people telling Tony Khan they want to look into going and working smaller arenas, because this whole big arena thing is not working out.
Right.
It'll work out for the big England show, that All In at Wembley. Yeah, that's fine. But I think
for the regular shows, yeah.
Regular shows and the other pay-per-views, I think they need to go into smaller arenas to make it look better for TV, because going into these bigger arenas and half of it's empty, that's a very, very telling sight. And I personally think it's got to be a downer for the wrestlers.
Yep.
Like Edge, when he was, because of the way he was faced, he was literally talking to a bunch of empty chairs. And I felt so bad for him. I'm like, this poor guy. Yeah. He is so used to being in a WWE ring with looking out at this massive crowd. Doesn't matter which side of the ring you look at, there are people everywhere. And you're looking at an empty arena, half empty arena. I was like, that's got to be disheartening.
Yep.
Yobi's getting a laugh at it. He's got oxygen mask. Yeah, except someone changes the tanks at the last minute. It's got helium in it. Acknowledge me. Oh dear, but no. Look, AEW really, yeah. I think they need to go to small. I'm not talking TNA small arena, but they definitely need to look in smaller arenas.
Well, do they need to do like NXT does? NXT doesn't do it in front of large crowds.
Yes. If they did it in arenas the same size as Daly's place, which is basically their home there in Florida,
right.
It makes it seem more full because it's a smaller arena, and so you have a tendency to make it look more packed than that. I think they're better off doing that for a while at least, and then maybe a little bit later on down the road looking at going to bigger arenas when your product's in a better place. I think that's half the problem. The product, even with the 3 big signings that they just got, is just not in a good place. I'd like to hope that the 3 signings that they've got, Okada, Monet, and Ospreay, is going to help them to some sort of degree. But besides Monet, who everybody knows as Sasha Banks, mind you, the other 2 guys, while they're big names to us wrestling enthusiasts and big names in Japan, they're not big names outside of that to the mainstream. And so I just, it's just so hard for them because they, and I bet you Tony thought, if we bring in Adam Edge Copeland, that's going to be good. He hasn't moved the needle. Sting didn't move. Sting didn't. I love Sting to death, but he didn't move the needle. The only person that was a part of that company that moved the needle was CM Punk. Jericho hasn't moved the needle. There's even people calling for him to retire because his matches have just gone down. You know what I mean? I mean, he is old. Yep. I'm pretty sure he's in his... Actually, I think it was at the last Dynamite or Collision when he was back. I think it might have been Dynamite. He was backstage after getting defeated by Hook, and you had the crowd yelling out, "Retire, retire already!" You could hear it on the TV
Oh.
taping. People
Which
were
that's got to be hard for them too, especially
yeah.
him because he.
Oh, he loves the business, but yeah,
Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of those guys have trouble retiring because what are they going to do now, type of thing. It's like,
yeah, he did that. He did that, brother. What Yobi was saying about Sting. But Tony Khan thought that he initially, when he got him, thought he was going to move. Then, people are going to tune in for Sting. It just didn't happen that way. Knowledge, teach, yeah, and he was one of the better ones. Same with like Adam Copeland's admitted that's what he's there for too. But Tony Khan would have initially hired him. Oh yeah, everyone's going to flock because this is former Edge. It just hasn't happened. Like they just, I don't know. I think they're always going to struggle, and I don't think they're ever going to be on WWE's level. I just don't. I think he wants it to be, but I just don't ever. They're not even going to be like WCW. They're not even going to beat them for 83 weeks or anything like that. It's just, it's not going to happen. The only way I could ever see it happening, and look, this is just, I've seen people bloody even on Facebook go, oh, would this be cool? This be cool. The only way it would happen is if someone like The Rock went and showed up on AEW. Then it might get eyes on the product, for sure. If Seth Rollins walked out there, it might get eyes on the product. Roman went across there when he's contract, it might get eyes on. It'd have to be someone of that level, that type of degree.
and current helps too.
Yeah. But they haven't got interest. The interest has waned on AEW since Cody left. It really has. They've got talent over there. Don't get me wrong. They've got a heck of a roster over there. But when you can have a heck of a roster, but if you don't know how to showcase them and you don't know how to use them correctly, and as I've said time and time again, your storylines are all over the place or non-existent. People aren't going to tune in. They're going to tune out. And I've said it a few podcasts ago. He needs to hire Scott D'Amore before WWE steps him. There's someone who could lead your writing team. He was doing a fantastic job with TNA. The TNA might be a tiny little company compared to what it used to be, and tinier than AEW. One thing that TNA had going for it with Scott D'Amore there that AEW hasn't had is good storytelling and writing. That was because of Scott. So, as I said, things need to change, but if they keep the course, they're going to be there while the money's there, but yeah, then WWE is never going to have to look over their shoulder, in my opinion. No, they just won't. They might have taken notice when, they first started and they came on the scene, upstart company, okay, maybe we could have a competitor here, but
and maybe they knew if they got Cody back that Cody was the heart of AEW.
Well, yeah, it definitely was one of them anyway. It was his baby essentially.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but there's a lot that needs to change if they're ever going to go anywhere besides where they currently are. They're number 2, and that's probably where they're going to stay. And they might be okay with that too. They're a number 2. They're an alternative.
Right.
You really only tune into AEW for the wrestling. Because if anybody sits there and says, "Oh, I'm tuning in to watch the story," well, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to whoever you're saying to, because there's no fucking decent story there. The wrestling is great, especially tuning in to watch an Ospreay match. Freaking phenomenal, absolute phenomenal. That's why I can understand some in WWE and the higher ups being upset that they didn't get him. 30 years of age. Best wrestler on the planet. The guy can do it all, man. Like he's insane. So they got talented guys over there, that put on fantastic wrestling matches, but outside of that, there's nothing really much, doesn't hold any substance for you, you know what I mean? So, But look, that's all we got for you this week, folks. We're going to really preview even more next week of WrestleMania leading into it. I'm quite sure, even next week's program leading into it's going to be fire. Um, I've even got high interest in the standard deliver pay per view, especially the Trick Williams Carmelo Hayes matchup. That's going to be
Yeah.
insane. Um, that is going to be insane, man. Um, I'm hoping Trick Willie gets the win there too. I think he needs it. He deserves it because Carmelo doesn't need it. Carmelo is basically essentially a main roster guy now, and I think that'll be his last match, and then he'll fully move up to the main roster. But before I close out, when Tony learns how to do business as a boss and not as a fan, AEW will grow to bigger heights. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. He's got to stop being a mark. I've said it for the longest time. He's too much of a mark. Um, and yeah, he just, like you said, he needs to learn how to run a car. Take a page out of Paul Levesque's book or Nick Khan's book. Like, you see how well WWE's doing, and there was
Yep.
reasons why Cody left, and one of them was the direction. You know, the AEW tries to be too much like PWG, and Cody was hoping that they would be a mix of New Japan and WWE. So mixing real top class, hard hitting wrestling with great storytelling. And I actually think that would have been the better way to go. You would have had phenomenal wrestling as well as phenomenal storytelling, and they've chosen just to have the phenomenal wrestling and nothing else. I won't take that away from
Yeah.
AEW. They do. They have a great amount of talent, phenomenal wrestling matches. But yeah, but no, that's all we got for you. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the wrestling week and next week. And of course, next weekend is the big weekend. Stand and deliver, and 2 nights of WrestleMania. As I said, 12 to 14 hours of
Not this
wrestling.
coming up weekend, but 2 weeks.
Yep.
So, yeah.
12 to 14 hours of wrestling. So get ready to sit your butts in
Yeah,
your
we
couches
did
and
this
chairs.
last year. It was a long weekend. It was.
It was, but hey, as a wrestling fan, it's the weekend that you look forward to most, man. The more wrestling, the better.
Yeah.
But no, it should be a fantastic, fantastic weekend of wrestling. So much to look forward to. Always a spectacle. But without further ado, Paul, did you want to let the fine folks know where they can find you, brother?
Cell block 8. No, I'm kidding. You can find me on, of course, Twitter, X, whatever. It's always going to be Twitter to me. At Cerebral Paul 1, Twitch at Cerebral Paul. Mondays and Thursdays right here on 4GQ TV. Mondays for this, the Pop Up Powerbomb podcast. Thursday for 4GQ TV. And then on Tuesday afternoons, you can find me at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 p.m. Eastern for Gaming Differently with Cerebral Paul. This week I will be playing Dragon's Dogma 2. I have an obligation. I have to play it. I'm not kidding. That's what I get for being given a code. So
Good game.
I'll be doing that, and then on Tuesday night I'll be doing Retro Renegades, and on what else? Then on I
Is it
think that's
Friday
it.
you get wasted with wives?
Oh yeah, wasted. Yeah, I forgot about that. Friday I get wasted with wives.
Yeah.
Man, it's a good thing he doesn't tune into this show because he would even forget about the show. There you go.
No, there you go, folks. And I just want to thank everybody, of course, for stopping in, especially the one and only, the legendary one himself, Yobi-san, Mr. Peace, Love, Life. This man's knowledge is as great as ours. Love talking wrestling with this man, as well as games too. But wrestling, man, he's like an encyclopedia, like both of us. Always great to have you and your support in the chat, brother. Of course, Trin, if you're still tuning in, love, appreciate you. Back from the dead, Tim Air, always great to see you boys. Of course, the man with the mythical beard himself, Dreadpool. Always great to have you show up in chat, and of course, all the lurkers. We appreciate all the support. Of course, haven't already done so, please hit that like button. And of course, again, if you haven't subscribed to the 4GQ channel, a lot of great content from a lot of great content creators on this channel, ranging from wrestling podcast, a gaming podcast, to an all-females gaming podcast, and many, many, many interviews that are very, very interesting and intriguing. That's done by Paul and, of course, the brother himself, Carlo. Shout out to Italian Clowns. That's,
Yep. And, oh, by the way, if you're at WonderCon this next weekend, Carlo will be there. So look for the little short dwarf-looking person and say hello. Yeah.
I call him the traveling man because this man like goes to everything. He doesn't miss a beat. You got to love the persistence and consistency from Carlo. He goes to everything. So shout out to him and hard working man that he is. But of course you find me everywhere on Twitters, on Steam, on the Xbox app under the Moon Man with the stars. My little Alan Wake Moon Man picture that you can see here. Other than that, you can find me here with the cerebral one himself every Monday evening where we talk everything wrestling, and of course every Wednesday with the Backlog Bastards, and where we talk everything gaming. Yeah. So two good topics.
And before I forget, we also have some interviews coming up. In fact, we have one that's going to be posted soon. That should be up soon. And Wednesday we have an interview with Chrome Skull himself. For those of you who are horror movie fans, you might know who Chrome Skull is from the Laid to Rest series of movies. Nick Felipe. So yeah, I lined that up. So it's gonna have some fun. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go, folks. As I said, you never miss a beat here. So don't forget to hit that bell too, because you'll know when either new content gets uploaded or any of us go live as well. So 4GQ TV is the place to be for all your needs.
I have access to the channel now too. I can stream. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
But it's true. Like there's everything here. That we talk gaming on this channel, wrestling on this channel, movies, TV, music, comic books.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, you got whatever interest you got. I'm quite sure we cover it here, except for we don't cover porn, but that's.
Well, there's another industry out there we do cover porn, but that's why we
But no, other than that, everything you can think of, we probably cover it. We got you covered. But thanks again, everybody. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week, and until next time, good night, everybody.